Hello, horror hounds. What happens once in the 70s, once in the 80s, and twice in the 90s? Phantasm movies. It's time to go balls deep with Phantasm 3. Just as with the opening of Phantasm 2, Phantasm 3 picks up right where the last movie left off, and I freaking love sequels that do that. So Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead, reached us in 1994, about 6 years after Phantasm 2, but picks up straight away, and in the manner of the Phantasm continuations, has to fudge the facts a little. You thought Reggie was dead at the end of Phantasm 2? Well, he just got a little bit bloody. It's safe to say that Annie Wilkes, I think, from Misery, wouldn't be a fan of this cockadoodie film franchise, not one bit.
This isn't what happened last week. Have you all got amnesia? They just cheated us. This isn't fair. He didn't get out of the cockadoodie car.
Don Coscarelli finds himself with, yes, a reduced budget from what he enjoyed with Phantasm 2, but no studio interference, no mandates that there have to be no dream sequences, no telling him that Mike has to have a love interest. So the first thing to be jettisoned is the love interest. Bye bye Alchemy and bye bye Liz. A fairly undignified way to go for Liz, having her face chewed off by evil dwarfs, but there you go. That doesn't mean that everything that was established in Phantasm 2 is thrown out with the bathwater. Whilst we say goodbye to Alchemy and Liz, we say hello to Rocky and Tim. He's a divisive one. Some fans love him, some fans don't really like him, but it's fair to say that Phantasm 3 goes further with most aspects that are now set in the franchise. It goes further with the balls, further with the gore, but it also goes further with the goofiness, and we're entering real slapstick territory with Tim here. But I will say this for the kid, with an absolutely straight face, he can surely fire some guns. He seems to really be able to handle the guns well. No flinching, no blinking, looks really assured with them. Much better than a ton of adult actors that we're asked to believe are comfortable around firearms. As for Rocky, really what's not to like? Honestly, she seems straight out of the 80s to me for a movie that's released in 1994. A freaking ex-military, takes no bullshit, shoot first, ask questions later, owns a pair of freaking nunchucks, for fuck's sake. She's a blast. What can I say? If you weren't down with the developments between Phantasm and Phantasm 2, you're really not going to roll with Phantasm 3. But as someone who, in my sober moments, honestly doesn't think Phantasm needed any sequels, and as a standalone movie, it's nigh on perfect. As a fan, I have to admit that the world would be a much less colourful place without the sequels, without Reggie, the unlikely hero, without the 4-barrel shotgun and the chainsaw fights, and the increasingly nuts abilities of the sphere. In this one, it just punches straight through someone's face, leaving a gaping hole. What we do have, because of no studio notes, is the return of Michael Baldwin as Mike. Now calling himself a Michael Baldwin, to which I'd say to him, dude, don't be down on yourself. You're not a Michael Baldwin. You're the Michael Baldwin. He brings a genuine frailty to the character of Mike that does help elevate what might otherwise have been a fairly thin performance. It really helps key back in to the frightened boy that we met in the first movie. And Mike, in some way, will always be that frightened boy deep down at his kernel. And it's an aspect of the character that Michael Baldwin understands. It's an aspect of the character that Michael Gross's performance in part 2 didn't really bring. And to be fair to Michael Gross, he does an absolutely fine job. He's not asked to bring that. He's asked to bring a fairly typical known face 80s male lead kind of performance, and he does that. I like my Mike with a little fragility, and that will always be a Michael Baldwin for me. And seeing as we got Michael Baldwin back, I completely understand the compulsion to, hey, let's get the whole band back together. Jodie's back. Jodie is also a silver sphere, kind of able to break the tall man's control and telepathically communicate with Reggie and Mike so that he can sometimes appear in his previous human form and sometimes morph into the silver ball and help them. I love the scene where the tall man completely fucking fries him, so from that point on he's a black charred ball that's kind of wrong, kind of short-circuited, helping them as best he can. By part 3, what we also have is Reggie Bannister playing the unlikely, reluctant hero, the ice cream vendor turned shotgun toting guy standing in the face of the onslaught of the ultimate evil. And while I was watching part 3, I was wondering to myself, why didn't Reggie become such a beloved cult figure as Ash Williams from the Evil Dead series? Because there are an awful lot of parallels. Give me your suggestions below. I suspect that the Phantasm movies are willfully obtuse. They're not as welcoming to the casual movie fan. Also, to be perfectly honest, Bruce Campbell, in between and long after the 3 Evil Dead movies, way before Ash vs Evil Dead TV series was even a going proposition, was kind of a one-man promotion machine and continues to be. And I think the character of Ash Williams sort of bleeds into Bruce Campbell. There is, as you would expect by now, there's great gore in this movie. There's also an amazing car flip. I love the fact that it still rankled Don Coscarelli that the car flip in part 2 wasn't good enough, wasn't what he wanted. So he decides, right, we're going to do another fucking car flip and we're going to do it right. It's one of the best car flips you will ever see if you like practical, real stunts. I think also part 3 really makes good on the road trip premise of part 2. Whilst part 2 is called the road trip movie, you know, the buddy movie where Reggie and Mike go on a road trip, there's like a couple of stops, and here we really get to see it. We do get the idea now. It makes good on the notion that the tall man is a cancer spreading across the country, spreading across America, slowly killing it town by town. We get some answers. Can you believe it? We get drip-fed some answers. We all knew that the dwarves were the compressed bodies of the dead, probably made that small so that they could survive the gravity of the tall man's red desert home planet, whatever the fuck that's about. What we didn't know were that the miniaturized shrunken brains of the dead were then put inside the spheres to control the spheres. That's fucked up, and that whole sort of post-mortem operation of the brain going inside the sphere, I fucking love it. We also find out that the golden sphere, first seen in part 2, is actually contained inside the tall man's head. But where we're seemingly given answers, there are no definitive answers. And part of the joy of this franchise, for me, is not being spoon-fed all the hows and the whys. It's just a bunch of crazy shit that happens. It's this constant move towards the gonzo, towards the bizarro, that helps, and towards the more sci-fi inflected, absolutely, that helps, to my mind, the Phantasm series stand apart from a ton of other horror franchises. It does mean that the series moves inexorably away from the scary and towards the weird. But honestly, what long-running horror franchise does honestly continue to be scary? So if you're just going to stop being scary and retread the original movies, kind of what's the point? At the very least, these stop being scary, but certainly the first 3 get bigger, weirder, stranger, rabbit holes inside rabbit holes about what's really going on. And surely that's a much better option than trying to catch the genuine lightning in a bottle that the first film was. Even Don Coscarelli is astute enough to realise that he's never going to make another Phantasm. But he can make a Phantasm 2 and he can make a Phantasm 3. And I'm all for that. But we all know in this world of bipartisan, competing views, what I'm all for doesn't mean shit. Which is why I like to try and round off these reviews with alternate viewpoints taken from Internet Movie Database user reviews to give you a sprinkling of the rainbow spectrum of alternate viewpoints that are out there. We'll start with TTB Express, who says, "This was pathetic. It seemed promising at first, but just isn't good. That ending for part 2 where Reg threatened to blow themselves up with a grenade was dumb. I thought the tall man wanted them dead. And when that kid killed those thugs, this made the ice cream man sound interesting. And the balls were just buzzing around like bees. And where did they get eyes? The ending was the best. Beside that, avoid this." Guyver6 says, "This movie is pretty damn good. The little kid's character was kind of odd though. I really liked the scene showing Rocky nude. Hey, I'm a guy. Anyways, the movie was good. I didn't really like the cover art on the box, but that's not really important." And finally, channel favourite Jacob John Taylor 1 says about Phantasm 3. "This movie gets a 6 and it's not even scary. How could movie this bad have cult view up? This is overrated. Phantasm 4 is a better movie and that was pretty bad. This movie has an awful storyline. It also has an awful ending. I cannot believe people got scared of this movie and did not get scared of Plan 9 from Outer Space. Plan 9 from Outer Space is a lot scarier than this crap. I can understand why Halloween is a popular movie. The Halloween movie are a lot better than this. This is a waste of time. It's also a waste of money. The Leprechaun movie are better. This movie is poo-poo. The whole series is poo-poo. Do not see any this awful movie."